Welcome to Honest Money, your best guide to financial freedom. I'm Warren Ingram, the author of a few best-selling books, and I'm also an award-winning financial planner, and I've helped thousands of people on their journey to financial freedom. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I am here to share my experience and the best ideas that I've learned, and I hope these ideas help you on your journey to financial freedom. Welcome to another episode of Honest Money. I've got a very interesting guest today because he's a techie who likes talking about money. Welcome to Branden Dale. I just want to get the name of your blog right because I really like it. Take charge of your money. Branden, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's only a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So how on earth did you get into the personal finance space?
I think I've always been interested in personal finance, and I've always sort of been looking after my money as best I can, although I did have a bit of a detour where I got into lots of debt, but that's a different story. I think for me, the blog started when I was working at a pension fund administrator, and I came to realize how little people actually have saved for retirement. And when you see people receiving a pension of literally 300-400 rand a month, you think, wow, how can you actually survive? And that got me thinking to how could I help people, and the fact that I personally enjoy admin and looking after my money and sort of figuring out cool ways to save money. And yeah, it took a few years before I sort of ended up on the current blog, but yeah, that was the journey.
Okay, fantastic. And is it something that you're trying to turn into a business over time? Is it something that you want to do as a side hustle, or is it kind of just a passion? How does it go from here?
It started off purely as a passion. I now see a lot of potential of it becoming a business. Is a strong term. I'm not sure if I would make a living off it, although many people do. But yes, I am certainly trying to drive sort of income generating off the blog and seeing what I can do from it, because there is clearly a huge need for financial education and just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think the more people providing quality information, and that's why you're on, because you do that. The more people that provide quality information to our people, the better, because I think that there are entire generations of South Africans that have never had exposure to kind of the formal financial sector at all, let alone kind of any kind of financial literacy or financial education. So, I encourage you to keep going there and keep it up. So you've kind of given me a few gems that I'd like to talk through already, and the first one is so you've in your life hit a debt problem. How did you get out of that?
Sure, that was quite a process, because I feel with debt, it's one of those weird things. You get a little bit of debt, you get a little bit more. You don't really realize the extent of it, or you don't realize you have a problem until one day you do. That day when you actually literally have no money left. And yeah, getting out of it, for me, it was a very drastic turnaround, because I had no cash flow. Like, I didn't actually have money to buy food or to get electricity, things like that. I was earning a good salary, but it just literally all disappeared into my credit cards and debt payments. So for me, I think the first thing I did is I whipped out Excel and I just listed all the debt I had, like absolutely everything, how much I was paying, what the interest rates were, which ones were in arrears, and I kind of prioritized where I needed to really work immediately, just to solve the arrears and the super high interest rates and things. And it took probably a year, maybe even a year and a half, to actually deal with all the debt. But yeah, it's just working out what you have and prioritizing what do you need to do right now. And you have to take drastic measures. I did. I guess it depends where you are in your debt journey. If it's not that desperate, then perhaps you don't have to be that drastic. But yeah, I hit this point and I just had to really, really, really stop buying like everything and just focus on getting debt. And after 2 or 3 months, I guess I fixed my cash flow, and then it becomes easier. Then you get into a cycle of paying your debts and dealing with it.
Yeah, I think it's there's two things to me around resolving a debt problem. One is a almost a behavioral kind of looking in the mirror moment that you have to have. And then the second one is a mechanical thing, literally, as you say, listing everything down. But I think a lot of us live in a bit of denial when we've got this debt issue that, it'll be okay tomorrow. The next paycheck will come and I'll start to get better next week, next month, next year. I'll start to save one day. And as you say, that if you're not focused on this as an issue, it creeps up on you. And unfortunately, to me, it feels like something that's, it's sort of gradually a noose tightening around your neck. And you don't feel the early stages. It's just one day you can't breathe anymore. One day you've got no room. And then all of a sudden you're in crisis mode. And as you say, then you need to get drastic. And I feel it's such a pity that people look at this only when they hit that wall, instead of saying early on, hang on, I'm starting on a slippery slope that I don't need to go down, and let me take action now, and have a hard look at why I spend money, not just what you spend, but why. And I think a lot of the time it's mindless.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and I actually compared debt. So debt in the sort of money terms versus sugar in the diet terms. So we all know sugar is bad for us, but yet it's all around. Wherever you go, there's something that has sugar. If you tell someone I'm not eating sugar, it's so limiting, you can barely find anything. But we also, we don't check our health issues until there's a big issue. And it's the same kind of thing. It creeps up on you. It's something you need to sort out, but you just don't. I mean, that's just a weird human behavior where we have these things that we know are the right thing, but we choose to ignore it. So, yeah.
So I see one of your blogs is about a budget. Now, I think I mean in the days when we used to be able to talk to large audiences in a live setting, I would say the B word, budgeting, and I would notice 50 or 70% of the people falling asleep very quickly, and it's so frustrating because it's probably the fundamental path to financial freedom is being able to kind of control what comes in and what goes out on a monthly basis from your bank account. And so few people do it. So I'm interested to see if you've got ways for people to do this fairly easily, fairly simply, and this is the kind of instant gratification generation. So it's about how do we make it interesting and exciting at the same time?
Yeah, I think for me the first thing is to stop using the word budget, because it's got such a bad reputation. As you say, people fall asleep, people find it restrictive. They think, oh no, you're going to make me stop spending money. And so I use the term spending plan. It's not really any different, but it's also just, for me, it's just planning for the next month, what you're going to do with your money. And it's not even a permanent plan. It doesn't have to be a plan for every month. It's just 1 month at a time. So I like to think of it as a plan of where my money's going just for the following month and what I'm going to do. And always also just the mindset that the budget or the spending plan, it's not there to stop you spending money, but it's there to help you manage your own money. It's your life, your money, your goals. So you need to kind of take charge of it. And to me, a big thing is just the mental sort of shift in actually deciding, well, actually, I do want to do something about it. And I do want to take charge of the situation. So that's the first thing. But then as far as the practical side goes, there's not a lot you can do to make a budget fun. Budgets can be boring, although there are quite a few apps nowadays that make it super easy, that you can just sort of, the transactions will automatically be on your phone. You don't have to physically do admin and stuff. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So I think finding the tool that works for you, and also not overcomplicating it. You don't have to have 500 categories and subcategories and sub. Just stick to a few things that make sense to you, so that you can see where your money's going, and that it kind of is reflective of your lifestyle and the way you think about admin and the way you think about money. And yeah, kind of tweak it as you go along.
So I must say, for me, the one thing that I find does work, I'm very goal orientated, not in terms of savings goals, but being able to plan for one day when we can travel again, but plan for a holiday, a plan to kind of do the things that I enjoy, and those are hugely motivating for me. So whenever I've got a goal setting exercise around money, I always start with the one thing that will really excite me to kind of make some financial compromises over the year, the first thing I'll start doing is I'll plan for the thing that will really excite me. And so for me, that's usually a big trip somewhere. And then I say to myself, right, in order for me to be able to afford that trip, I need to add X money to my long-term savings, X money in the days when I had debt, getting the debt down, and then X money to kind of medium-term goals, whatever those might be. And once I've hit those, I can allocate the rest to my fun budget, my holiday budget, my travel budget. And I find, in a relationship, I mean, I'm married, that for my wife, she's the spreadsheet queen. So she wants to budget everything to the last cent. And we often hit kind of a crossroads there until we came up with this way, because then she knows all of our other goals are sorted. I know I've got my holiday. And we're both happy, but we're also equally both motivated to stick to what we need to do. And I find that's probably one thing I would say to people is, you're right, it can't be fun, but you can make it motivating. It's not just about, save for when I'm 55 or save when I'm 45 or whatever your financial freedom goal is. You can have short-term goals that are hugely exciting as well, that then offset the sacrifices you need to make.
Definitely. And I think if we're talking about saving, it's almost pointless saving if you don't have a reason for it, because you're not going to stick to it because there is no motivation. So having goals is super, super important.
And the other big tip I would give people, especially if you struggle a little bit with self-discipline around money, is if you're in a relationship, it should be a joint setup. The two of you should hold each other to account, and the two of you should agree on most of the money goals. You don't have to be identical. Everyone's different around money. But if you're not, you're not in a serious relationship, have a money buddy. It's like running. If you have to get up in the middle of winter to go and meet your running buddy, to go actually get on the road and go and run, it's really hard to kind of just not get up and stick to the goal because there's someone holding you to account. And I find that kind of behavioral positive peer pressure, I guess, is maybe the way to think of it. That positive peer pressure, you can use the same dynamic in money. I think South Africa, we've got this great example of stokvels, and to use this sort of stokvel approach to say, there are a group of us we're not sharing our money. I'm not saying you need to pool your money like a stokvel, but if you can kind of have a group, group mentality can be used in a really positive way as well. So that would be the other thing I would say to people is, you can make it slightly more social, slightly more fun. If you have a group of you kind of getting together once a month to say, well, I set these goals. You don't have to tell everybody exactly what you earn and what you save and what you spent, but you can set the goals. And then have a group of friends or one buddy that kind of holds you to it, and it's really embarrassing, when you haven't met your goal, and so those are the two things I would say is save for something that motivates you, and then if you're not going to stick to those goals easily, and most people don't, that's why not everyone's a marathon runner. Then have a collective, have a group of people that give you that positive peer pressure.
Yeah, no, those are super useful. I'm also, if I could change the subject ever so slightly, I'm in a bit of an odd situation where my partner hates budgeting and he's really not good at managing money. So in our relationship, we have me on the one hand who loves Excel and budgets and saving, and then my partner who just sort of money comes and goes, and that also creates quite an interesting dynamic in the relationship. And I think one thing I've done to circumvent any issues is I've taken charge of the conversations around an emergency fund and around one specific, it happens to be a travel savings fund, where we've just set these up, and I've given him goals and we've sort of discussed it, come to an agreement, and at least I know those two aspects of his finances are covered. Because money in relationships can be quite a tricky area to cover.
You hit the nail on the head. I think the two biggest kind of factors that cause breakdowns in relationships, long-term relationships, money and children, and sometimes they go together, right? And so if you can create a kind of a unified team around money, and you find a way for it to work with both of your strengths and weaknesses, it's a huge help. If you look at the I'm not talking about the world's wealthiest people, because they're the exception, and I always think hugely lucky as well. But if you look at people that have achieved financial independence over long periods of time, it's usually an economic union. It's two people working together, two goals. And I'm not saying, in your example, for example, it doesn't need to be two people that are kind of spreadsheet, focused. I was about to use a rude word there because I don't like spreadsheets, but not attached to spreadsheets only. You can have very different ways of looking at things, but if you can find a union of way of working together that complements both of your strengths and weaknesses, it's a huge help to kind of that long-term financial freedom. And equally, if you work against each other, where one's always hiding, a lot of people, they say, I don't want my partner to know my financial affairs. I don't want them to know how much my debt is because they'll be really upset with me. That problem just compounds and just gets,
that's a dangerous problem, definitely.
Yeah. So I always want to know from our guests, if you had to jump back to your 18 or 21-year-old self with the knowledge that you have today, what would be the one thing that you'd want to tell yourself around money?
Sure, I think there would be two things. Well, the one is I wouldn't have invested with a very dodgy financial advisor who gave me some awful products, but luckily I solved those a few years later. But I think I would definitely have started investing far earlier. And I think I would have told myself that managing money and actually growing wealth is not as hard as people make it out to me. It's actually a lot simpler. And a lot of it has to do with habits and mindset. And you can also sort of educate yourself, read books and blogs and whatever. You can really learn this stuff. You can become rich. You can become wealthy. Whereas when I was 18 years old, it just seemed impossible. So I think, I would definitely have a chat about that.
I think you make a brilliant point there. So many people are mystified by the world of money. And I think the financial services industry is very good at making it seem like a hugely complex field, whether it be the asset managers, the stockbrokers, the financial planners, the insurance companies, they do a very good job of making it seem like an enormously complex, way of doing things. And I think a lot of the time when you meet the people that have achieved financial freedom, they're not all rocket scientists. They're not all, investor geniuses themselves. They often apply a great deal of common sense, a fair amount of discipline, and they're consistent. And lots of people have achieved financial freedom entirely on their own. Without help from anywhere. I mean, that's not to say that some people don't need help, but that doesn't mean you have to outsource everything to an advisor or an asset manager. You need to know that when things go wrong in life around your money, the only person that's actually going to suffer is you. And therefore, you have to take control. You have to know what's going on. You can use outsiders and if you want, but just know that they might earn a bit less money from you if things go wrong, but you'll be the one that won't have a home and a house and a roof over your head is what I was looking for. But to outsource all of the responsibility for your money to someone else doesn't make sense. I feel that's reckless. So I think you make a great point there.
Yeah, and no one actually cares about your money as much as you do, unless of course they wanted to get your money. But ultimately it's your money and your responsibility. So you need to know what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's, a lot of the time we're embarrassed to say we don't know about money, and that's also something I think people should give up, that embarrassment. It's perfectly fine to tell someone, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please explain it a different way, or can you tell me more? And to be not bullied but almost shamed into making decisions because you're embarrassed to ask people for more information is really not a good idea. I think. I always think if someone's explaining something to you about money and they haven't explained it so that you can understand, the problem lies with them, not with you. And either you get them to explain or you find someone else to explain it to you. And always, there's so much quality information nowadays that's available free. If you don't have the money to buy, financial education, you can certainly get a lot of it online. Whether it's podcasts, whether it's blogs, it doesn't matter. I think there's a lot out there that we can access already. And I feel that that's something we should have responsibility for. Take responsibility to educate yourself and then control your money. As you say, the only person that suffers at the end of the day is you if you don't have control.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're out of time, Branden. Thanks so much for joining. It's been great to have you on the show. I was hoping to kind of create some controversy, but I think you and I have a lot of alignments around the way money works. So I'm sorry we couldn't come up with some good feisty debates there, but I look forward to reading your blogs in the future, and please keep it up.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a good chat.
Thank you for listening to Honest Money. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me on Twitter. My handle is @Warren Ingram. Don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Chat soon.